Happy Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into another day of Morning JOX. Conrad Van Order alongside Damian Mitchell, as we will be with you until 7 o'clock, getting you ready for week one of college football coming up later this week. Of course, you've got Auburn and Baylor coming up on Friday. We do have some games on Thursday, UAB among those on Thursday, along with Mizzou and many others. But Friday, I know the big day for a lot of you is Auburn will take on Baylor. And then, of course, Saturday, Alabama making the start of their season down there in Tallahassee as they will take on Florida State. So a lot for us to get to. Got to hear as we kind of got into the routine of the season now, as yesterday you got, as is tradition, both Hugh Freeze and Kalen DeBoer speaking to the media, previewing what they have coming up in week one, and also just kind of getting a chance to put a bow on fall camp and all of that good stuff, as that is now firmly in the rearview mirror as we head towards the start of the season. But we have some Auburn stuff to get to, some Alabama stuff to get to, and then I want to take a look at some of the teams that have the most on the line in week one, because there's, at least in the SEC, a handful of teams that I think really have, not saying that this first game will make or break anybody's season necessarily, but certainly a little more on the line for some teams than others in week one. And so we'll dive into that just a little bit. But I know one thing that is tradition with this time of year that we tend to forget about is the fact that sometimes you're not going to be able to watch college football on television. So we wanted to just go ahead and put this out there for all of you that might be YouTube TV enjoyers. If that's the way that you get your television, we want you to know they are currently in a dispute with Fox, which unfortunately is the station or the network where you would be watching the Auburn and Baylor game on Friday. It is also the network where you would be watching the Texas and Ohio State game on Saturday morning. So just want to throw that out there that they are trying to obviously work through this dispute. Now, there have been a lot of times in the past, right, where it'll kind of come down to the final hour and then something will get resolved. Now, does that mean it gets resolved late Friday night, early Saturday morning? Does that mean it gets resolved this morning? It's certainly possible, but just something for you to kind of keep an eye on, and we'll try to keep you up to date, and hopefully they get this resolved at some point today. It would be ideal, obviously, but sometime in the next couple of days, and we'll keep you up to date on that. But just wanted to throw that out there, because if you want to make a contingency plan of, hey, I'm going to go to a buddy's house or a family member's house, or, hey, let's go to this restaurant to try to watch the Auburn game because you have YouTube TV, you can just go ahead and make your plans, whether you have many options from a lot of places that we love here at JOX, whether it's Social Taco, Big Whiskeys, The Finnick, all of that good stuff, and many, many other great options. But just want everybody to know so you're not caught off guard on Friday. You get off work, man, I can't wait to watch the Auburn game tonight. Then you turn on your YouTube TV, go to Fox, and you realize, oh, I don't have that channel right now. But the good news is they are offering people affected by it a $10 credit. So I know for a lot of people that makes up for the Auburn game not being on potentially, right?
Right, yeah. We'll just knock $10 off your bill next month. But no, I think they said they try to get everything done. Well, at least the deadline is Wednesday, but I think we want this rectified rather quickly.
Yes, and I would say I think the big concern that people have on, I guess, with this round of it is that the NFL doesn't start for 2 weeks. And so, let's be honest, that's kind of the big draw. Now, Texas and Ohio State, that's going to do big numbers overall. I mean, Auburn and Baylor have a lot of people watching, but I mean, Texas, Ohio State will be one of the most watched college football games all year. But let's be honest, the NFL is really when these kinds of deals get taken care of and go, we can't miss that NFL audience. So maybe that gives you a little bit of concern, but not to freak anybody out. Hopefully it'll get taken care of. But just so you know, if you have YouTube TV, make plans for Friday so you can watch Auburn versus Baylor. But how about those Auburn Tigers and what's going on with them, as we did get to hear from Hugh Freeze yesterday. And so you got to hear from him twice, actually, if you're an Auburn fan, because he had his press conference yesterday around 1:30, and then he also they had their first episode or first edition of Tiger Talk for the upcoming season as well. So you got to hear a lot of good stuff from Hugh Freeze. And just a couple of quick notes before we hear from the head coach himself. Some of the notes from Tiger Talk last night, you didn't get a ton. I guess it wasn't kind of carryover from the press conference, but there were a couple of nuggets in there, including his biggest surprise of fall camp. Hugh Freeze says the biggest surprise for him has been the development of Rayshon Pleasant, who, of course, is a defensive back there for the Auburn Tigers, but also does a lot of great work for them on special teams. So, again, another younger guy that's really impressing on the defensive side of the ball for Hugh Freeze. He also was very complimentary of Damari Alston, saying it's his time to shine. So perhaps that being a good indicator that you are going to see Damari Alston as the RB1 over Jeremiah Cobb, which I know that's a guy that a lot of people are excited about. I think him and Jeremiah Cobb clearly are going to have, they're going to be the 1-2 punch in whatever order it is, whether it's a 50-50 split of the carries or one guy gets favored a little more heavily to start off the season, however that ultimately goes. But you have to feel pretty good at least about the depth in Auburn's running back room because, of course, Omar Mabson is maybe the player you've heard the most about in terms of turning heads in fall camp. And if that's kind of your third or fourth guy on your totem pole, then you got to feel pretty good about where you're at. Now, on the special teams side of things, I know we've talked a little bit more about special teams for Auburn and Alabama than you typically would, but they're very, very important. And unfortunately for Auburn, things are looking better, but Hugh Freeze did say yesterday Alex McPherson's still dealing with some health issues from time to time, still having trouble at times keeping his weight on and keeping food down and things of that nature. So they're going to continue to monitor that situation. They feel good about what they have behind him if Alex McPherson is not able to go on Friday, but still just kind of waiting to see what he's going to feel like later on in the week. The good news, though, Eric Singleton Jr. is supposed to play on Friday against Baylor. He's been held out here recently with a thigh bruise, and he should be close to 100%, if not 100% on Friday, but he's going to be a go. So that's good news for Auburn. Your big name, big ticket wide receiver from the transfer portal is going to be good to go. And then how about Jackson Arnold, the quarterback there? Hugh Freeze has said has continued to show progress each and every day in practice. His decision-making has been excellent lately. He was really high on all of the quarterbacks actually on the last scrimmage and said that they all did a really, really nice job. But, of course, he's always got to throw in something because you can always get better, right? And so he said for Jackson Arnold, maybe would like to see him stay in the pocket a little bit longer. But he did kind of quickly say, but he is also athletic. So you kind of want to go with his discretion on that. And that's the other thing with a lot of this, right, is in fall camp you kind of don't really know what you have to work with just because a lot of these guys aren't, you're not trying to tackle the quarterback. You're trying to be really safe, really careful with them, have the no contact jersey on. And so it can be kind of tough to know what you have from an athleticism standpoint until you're out there against live action. So that's a couple of the notes from what you got from Hugh Freeze yesterday from both his press conference as well as Tiger Talk going on last night. But let's hear from Hugh Freeze. And we'll do cut 16, Damian, here of the old coach down there on the plains of Auburn, talking a little bit about his excitement level for not only this season, but, of course, this Baylor game coming up on Friday.
I'm full of excitement of this team. I know I've been around enough to know when you have enough talent to win games, and we do, and we're not going to run from that. We're excited about it, and now we've got to go prove that. And I don't know what the results will be on any given game because, as you know, there's a lot of teams that can beat you on a given night if you don't play very well. So that part with some of new quarterbacks and a lot of young guys on defense and all of that, it's a question mark for you. But I'm excited to go see them play.
So there you go, Hugh Freeze saying, hey, I know what it's like when you have you kind of look around the room and see the talent you got and realize, I think we can have a pretty special group this year. And he certainly feels that way about this year's team. And Friday will go a long way towards, I guess, affirming that for the fan base or continuing to give them reason for concern. So I know a lot of us very excited. And let's be honest, right? Even if you're an Alabama fan and you absolutely despise Auburn, you're pretty interested in how they're going to look this year, right? Like I think Auburn's one of those teams we can all agree, whether you love them or hate them, that we are all very, very interested to see what they actually look like on the field because their optimism's there, the talent is there, the reason to believe is there. But when push comes to shove, can that show up for 60 minutes every Saturday, or at least the majority of Saturdays this fall, to where Auburn turns out to have a pretty good season. So a lot of excitement there ahead of that season opener on Friday, where Auburn will travel to Waco, Texas, to take on Baylor and their head coach, who is one Dave Aranda, who we'll just play one cut from Dave, because I'll be honest with you, we'll just play number one. We listened to his whole press conference yesterday on Three Man Front, and anybody else that listened to that maybe fell asleep. We didn't want to cause like a traffic block up or a traffic jam on I-65 from people falling asleep at the wheel yesterday. But this is Dave Aranda sharing some of the respect that he has for Auburn going into that matchup.
A lot of respect for Auburn and Coach Freeze, and know a lot of the coaches there, and know a lot of those players. And so a lot of respect for them and what they can do and what they're capable of, and really want them to achieve all of that, just not here in this first game. And so looking forward to kicking the season off, and I know that our guys are trying not to count the days, but work during these days in the lead up to.
So there you go. There's Dave Aranda. Sounds a little better when you can raise his volume levels a little bit, because yesterday, I don't know what, whoever was in control of that for the Baylor press conference was, I was just saying, listening to him yesterday, like as a player, I was like, man, it'd be hard for me not to fall asleep after like an intense workout, having to listen to him talk to the team. Like, it'd be hard not to fall asleep. But
Dave Aranda is a unique individual.
Yeah.
Like his thought process and the way that he goes about it, it's very different from most coaches. Like, he's not, how they say, not really a rah-rah guy. And I'm interested to see what it's like when he raises his voice, because I think it would definitely cause a stir in the room, because he just comes off very, very slow and very – you could see him being like the voiceover for like some sort of like AI thing. Like, I after hearing his voice, it's kind of unique of just – I don't know how he could rally the troops. Maybe it's because of like the way that he looks. Like, he looks very intense. Like, he doesn't look like he smiles often.
No. But
just the way that he talks, it's like, whew. I find it difficult how he could rock the room, to say the least.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But hey, he knows what it takes to win. Obviously, he's got a pretty solid track record at Baylor, and obviously, being at places like LSU before that, he's had a lot of success. So that'd be tough to listen to. And I'm just thinking too, man, if he ever, let's say that, later on in his career, he did a Mike Leach type thing, said, you know what, I want to get in the classroom a little bit. Man, you better not have that class at 8 a.m. because that's going to be a rough one to get through if Dave Aranda's your professor. But always good to hear from the opposition as well. So that's what's going on. The latest from Auburn and Hugh Freeze, and a little bit from Dave Aranda there as they get ready for their Week 1 showdown coming up on Friday. And then on Saturday, of course, you've got Alabama and Florida State. So what did Kalen DeBoer have to say about the upcoming matchup? And we'll hear a little bit from Mike Norvell as well, as he looks to have his Florida State Seminoles bounce back in a big way as they host Alabama on Saturday. So we'll get a little bit into that matchup. Take your calls, your text as well. 205-834-9450. Get you on the courtesy GMC text line. We continue with Alabama and Florida State next on Morning JOX. $6:19, welcome back into Morning JOX here on your Tuesday morning. Conrad and Damian with you as it, again, feels like fall this morning. I'm just going to say it was 64 degrees when I walked out of my front door this morning. So I feel like this happens every year and you fall for it and you're like, man, we really are going to get a fall this year, and it's probably going to be 100 degrees in a week, but it's going to be fantastic for this week. And what better timing than the first week of college football, Damian? We got so blessed where, it might be a little bit of rain here and there, but it seems like at least through the weekend, you're going to have some fantastic weather for you to enjoy your college football as you see fit. So we spent some time this morning talking a little bit about Auburn and Baylor. Got to hear from Hugh Freeze, Dave Aranda, and some other notes from the Auburn program. So now how about Alabama as they prepare to take on Florida State. That's who they're going to take on in week 1 on the road there in Tallahassee. And yesterday you got kind of the full gambit there with Alabama. You got not only Kalen DeBoer, but you got Ryan Grubb and Coach Womack as well there at the defensive coordinator spot. So not a whole lot coming out of Alabama yesterday, or at least nothing, I guess, that's new information in a lot of ways. We did find out Jaden Roberts is questionable for Saturday. He's still working through concussion protocol, so not sure if he's going to be able to go. But you heard some praise for Geno Vandermark, Cam Dewberry, that those guys would fill in there. So, all things considered, you would imagine you're going to roll in there with, I would think you would have Proctor at left tackle, then you're going to have Dewberry at left guard, you're going to have Brailsford at center, Vandermark right guard, and Formby at right tackle, and that's what you're going to roll with until Jaden Roberts is able to come back, and then he'll slide into one of the guard positions you would expect. But Kalen DeBoer did say they don't want to have as much of a rotation at the offensive line, and I'd forgotten about this. I don't know if you remember this last year, but the first play, because Kalen DeBoer brought this up yesterday, so you had Caden Proctor that got hurt in warm-ups last year before the Western Kentucky game. So he was out before you even played a snap. And then Parker Brailsford, something happened to him on the very opening drive of Alabama's first game as well, where it was like the second or third play from scrimmage, and you had 2 new offensive linemen already in the game for Alabama because Proctor was out and Brailsford had to get taken out for a couple of plays. And so trying to get away from that this year, don't want to have to be rotating guys in that early or that often on the offensive line, but they feel pretty confident about that group as a whole. Ryan Grubb talking about Ty Simpson, just, coach speak to the T, right? Control what you can control. Don't try to force anything. Don't try to play hero ball, and everything's going to be just fine. And they mentioned the fact that while he hasn't, started a game in his college career, he doesn't have that starting experience. He has played in a number of games in college football, so it's not like he's going to be totally shell-shocked walking onto the field for the first time. So they seem to feel pretty confident that he's going to be good to go, just from a, first game jitters, I guess, kind of perspective, and how he prepares. So seems like there's a lot of optimism there around the Crimson Tide, just as there is around the Auburn Tigers as they get ready for week 1. So let's hear a little bit from the coaching staff, and let's hear from Kalen DeBoer, just kind of his quick thoughts on the preparation and being excited for the challenge of facing Florida State.
Excited about this last week of preparation. Guys, I think, are in a good spot. We continue to, have those things continue to be healed up here nicely last week. And so, getting, like I said, time to play, see where we're at. And, I think this team that we got here going on the road, be a great test with Florida State. We know that from the coaching staff, head coach Coach Norvell and 2 new coordinators, been a lot of film for us to pour through. We know that they've done a great job over their careers individually and now collectively. Know that we're going to face a good test here this weekend.
So there you go. That's Kalen DeBoer talking a little bit of a preview of the Florida State matchup coming up on Saturday. We also got to hear from Kane Womack, defensive coordinator there for Alabama. And I thought this was interesting. This was kind of his perspective on somebody that's had their fun this offseason, right? Decided to motivate their team with some choice words. And hey, he's a quarterback. He's a leader of the team. This is what you would expect from one Tommy Castellanos, of course, who, again, talked a big game a little bit this offseason. And so we will now see how he fares against Alabama because the ACC can't stop him. But this is Kane Womack talking about the challenge of defending a quarterback that's mobile on his feet the way that Tommy Castellanos is.
Yeah, I think, when you look at their quarterback, and his body of work over the years, he's hard to get down, a very shifty player. He can run. He's elusive in the pocket. He's got really good pocket awareness. His escapability is kind of all over the place. And so, kind of hard to pin down in that regard. So those are, I would say we'll have our work cut out for us. It'll be as challenging probably as we have had from a standpoint of creating negative plays on the quarterback in the backfield.
And we know that was certainly not a strong suit of Alabama defensively last year in terms of quarterback sacks. They were 15th in the SEC. If you are just now joining us, there are 16 teams in the conference, and they were 15th. So something that's certainly going to need to improve this year, Damian, but looks like, as you hear from Coach Womack, they're going to have their work cut out for them when it comes to defending Castellanos. Well, how about Mike Norvell? Let's hear from him real quick, the head man, almost the head coach at Alabama, right? Or some people would tell you.
That's what they tell you.
Yeah, close to being the head coach at Alabama after Nick Saban retired, but he had to stay in Tallahassee, Florida instead. So this is Mike Norvell talking about that week 1 matchup for his Florida State Seminoles against Alabama.
What better way to kick it off than, you're here at Doak Campbell Stadium, sold out crowd. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere, and to be able to do it here against a quality opponent, top 10 ranked team, a lot of excitement around our program. So, looking forward to a big week of preparation. I like the things the guys have done up to this point. As we have, got a jump start on Alabama, and now it's just it's about continuing to grow and improve throughout this week, so we can go play at our best level. Come 3:45 on Saturday.
So there you go. That's Mike Norvell, head coach there of Florida State, and I will just throw this out there. It seems like Florida State is not maybe the healthiest at the defensive line, and a couple guys banged up there, so maybe that's maybe Alabama's going to run the football.
So maybe when you go back and, that clip that went viral a couple weeks ago on him on the sled, it was a guy that just was not expecting to play. He wasn't expecting to get those reps, and the sled got the best of him that day.
Yeah, perhaps that is the case. But, yeah, just throwing that out there because we were talking yesterday about I brought up the offensive line as, really needing to see them get off to an early start to help the offense because you're breaking a new running back, a new quarterback. Offensive line plays a big role in that. And so maybe, Florida State being banged up a little bit on the defensive line will make their life a little bit easier. But speaking of the running backs there at Alabama, quickly, let's go to the phone lines because our buddy Scoobs has been waiting patiently, and he wants to talk Alabama running backs. So what better time to bring him into the conversation? How are we doing this morning, Scoobs?
We're doing great, guys. How you doing this morning?
Doing well. So what you want to talk about with the Alabama running backs?
Real quick, before I get to the point, there's a lot of different storylines dealing with Jim. And I'm just curious if you guys have a perspective on him. Do you see, an outlay on what's going on with Jam Miller? Because, I've read many different articles, and I'm just curious what's your guys' insight on that.
Yeah, so my understanding is it was a dislocated collarbone that he didn't ultimately have to have surgery on to repair. But the belief is that, I guess initially, and that's why they thought maybe he'd be more on a week-to-week basis. And then you heard Kalen DeBoer later last week come back and say maybe it's a little worse than it initially appeared. But everything that I've been told is still the same, that they expect to have him back by the Georgia game because you're going to get that bye week in between that as well. So it would be over a month between when he injured it to the Georgia game. So that's the latest I've heard. It was dislocated collarbone. Recovery seems to be going well. He's still expected back for Georgia.
Okay. I was just curious on that because I heard different timelines there. Dealing with the Alabama running back room and what they currently have behind Jam, I'm just curious what you guys feel about production. With Young and with Hill, where do you see a lot of this game? I guess who and what do you see? What type of game plan do you see here?
Yeah, I appreciate the call, Scoobs. We'll try to answer that quickly. Yeah, in terms of a game plan for Alabama, I would think early on, right, you want to get Ty Simpson confident. You probably want to get him some easy passes. Wide receiver should be a strength of your offense. So I would think that you're going to want to throw the ball a good bit. But, I just mentioned the defensive line maybe being a little banged up for Florida State. I think you're going to run the football a lot. I have heard that maybe some of the players on offense prefer Richard Young, or there's maybe a little bit of a lean towards him with the first team offense. So I would expect that he's going to be the guy that gets the start, I guess officially. If you were to name him RB1, it would be Richard Young. But I think I think a lot of the other guys are going to have a role as well. Like I think you're going to see Daniel Hill a lot. I think Dre Washington's going to have himself a role as a guy that has just a lot of experience playing a lot of football. I think Kevin Riley could find himself in the mix as well. And then, hey, one guy goes down again, and A.K. Deere probably finds himself with a role as well. So, I mean, I think they're going to be in a pretty good spot. I think Jam Miller was certainly the best that they have in that running back room, but I think Alabama has enough depth there to where, I mean, you can make it work until he's able to come back, hopefully, again against Georgia.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a running back by committee at this point. I still think that you should have success in the run game. And just don't get too far away from the game plan because you have the injury to Jam. Because one thing you don't want to do is just get pass happy because that does kind of raise the risk as far as turning the ball over and things. But I still think Ty Simpson the usage of his legs. I'm not expecting him to go out there and run QB zone, QB power like they were doing with Jalen Milroe. But I do think that he'll keep defenses honest with his legs as well. So you kind of have a full room back there that's able to still make up some of the production that you would be able to get if you just handed it straight to Jam Miller. So I still think that Alabama's going to establish the run game and still have some success there against Florida State.
Yeah, and I think the biggest concern, out of the running back room is not necessarily their ability to run the football. It's, are they going to be good in pass protection? How effective are they out of the backfield as a receiver? I think in terms of just running the football, Alabama's going to be okay. It's just going to be who can step up and do the other things well and at a high level while Jam Miller is out. So hopefully that answers your question, Scoobs, a little bit there on the running back room for Alabama heading into Florida State. But Alabama and Auburn, not the only teams with a lot to play for in week one. Let's take a look at some of those other matchups and how pivotal is a win for some of these SEC teams in week one. We'll dive into that next on JOX. Welcome back into Morning JOX here on your Tuesday morning. Conrad and Damian here with you until 7 o'clock when we will hand you off to McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Appreciate all of you making us a part of your morning each and every morning here on JOX, and hopefully we'll be a part of many more mornings now as it is college football season, and it's always cool. You get to see the people that we of course we love all of our listeners, and we have a lot of you that listen to us all year round. But it's cool when you get to college football season, and there's a lot of people that's you've been busy over the summer, going on vacation, dealing with your kids, all this stuff, and now everybody kind of rallying back around for college football season. It's good to see a lot of familiar faces, and the reason that I thought of that is because somebody that we don't really hear from unless it's college football season, which is honestly a wild time for him to choose to chime in regularly, is John Mack, who, if you are new to the program, he's a humongous Texas A&M Aggies fan. Huge. Biggest Aggies fan I've ever met in my life. Well, I've never met him. Don't know if I ever want to meet him. But we do appreciate his interaction on the show. And we don't get to hear from him a lot unless it is college football season. So, but this morning, John Mack just texted in, keep glossing over the facts. Quarterback sucks, can't throw, and is no Milroe. Defense is weak and will get shredded by SEC offenses. Better wake up, boys. It's over.
See, and here's the thing about John Mack. I respect him. I'm a certified hater. I do appreciate it. But the only team he does this to is Alabama. Because the last time I saw, there's another team in the state that actually got a win over you. They're actually on your schedule. I would actually lean more of, hey, we need to find a way to beat Auburn. Because you lost to, again, a Peyton Thorne-led Auburn team last year in 4 overtimes. You could say, oh, man, we're banged up and stuff. But still, that team was 5-7, didn't go to a bowl game. Still whooped that ass. You lost to South Carolina on the road as well. And you also have your father that runs the state in Texas and got to Atlanta before you. And you could talk about their schedule. Hell, you're on their schedule. You had the golden ticket to go in there, but you still lost to them. You could talk about Arch all you want. Last time I saw, Arch scored a touchdown on you. Like, it gets to a point where, how about you start talking mess about the teams that are actually on your schedule? Like, when he talks about LSU, perfectly fine with it. You beat them last year. Stand on it. Dig them, kick them while they're down. But it's the fact that you're talking about Alabama when you don't even play them. And you won't get a chance to play them because Alabama has a better chance of going to Atlanta than you do. And you've been in there, and you've been in the league how long and have still not made it there. And you saw Texas come in. You can say all you want about the rivalry and how they, they're high and mighty. Well, they found themselves in a way to Atlanta, and you were on that path as well, and you suffered the same thing that you did against Auburn. So, you got to be reasonable with your hate. Well, you got to pick your battles. And I just don't think that a team that you don't have to play, you should stand up and start, waving the flag, because you got to deal with the other team in the state. Because last time I checked, I saw Alabama beat Auburn. That's something that you couldn't do. And you could say, don't want to hear it. You had the opportunity. You didn't get it done. How about you focus on the other team in the state? Let Alabama do what they need to do. And if y'all handle y'all's business, y'all can meet up in Atlanta for all the marbles, and we can go from there.
I have to say, I think he might be the first person I've heard that brings up Ty Simpson not being Jalen Milroe, but in a negative light, in the sense that, you're going to wish that you had Jalen Milroe from last year over Ty Simpson. And who knows, that may end up being true ultimately. I haven't heard that angle to the argument before, I guess, of, you guys are, Alabama's going to be in trouble without Jalen Milroe. Well, maybe the version of Jalen Milroe from 2 years ago. But anybody that watched the Seahawks last preseason game?
It was the center's fault.
All 3 times?
It was the center's fault, Conrad.
Okay.
It was the center's fault. We do not plays. No, it hit Jalen Milroe right in the hands. There's no sugarcoating it.
Yeah, if you missed it, Jalen Milroe fumbled 3 times.
Yep.
The other night in the preseason game for the Seahawks. So yeah, I will. I'll roll the dice with Ty Simpson this year. I think that's okay. But John Mack does respond by saying that he loves you playing De La Soul coming back from break.
See, there we go. We can find common ground.
So there's a little bit of love there. But all right, appreciate some of you chiming in now. 205-834-9450 on the courtesy GMC text line, and we'll get to some of those coming up here in just a minute. But quickly, I did want to get your thoughts on this, Damian, because we were talking about week 1. We've been talking a lot about Alabama and Auburn, as we will continue to do here this week. But you have 3 other SEC teams that are playing in what I would consider pretty big games to start off their year. So you have LSU and Clemson, Texas, Ohio State, obviously, but you also have Tennessee and Syracuse. And I think that's a game that maybe flies under the radar a little bit. I think that's a game Tennessee could lose. I don't think they will, but I think Syracuse, if you didn't watch them last year, I know Kyle McCord's gone, but Syracuse that's a solid program. That's a solid team right now. So they'll certainly have their work cut out for them. But for those 3 teams, Damian, LSU, Texas, and Tennessee, who do you think needs to get a win the most in week 1? I think, it'd be easy to say, well, if Tennessee loses to Syracuse, maybe the fan base would be a little bit concerned about what this year was going to look like. I think for Texas, right, national championship or bust is kind of their feeling, so you don't want to start off with a loss. But I think it's probably still LSU and Brian Kelly, and a lot of it just has to do with the fact that you haven't won a season opener under Brian Kelly, and this is the year that you see a lot of people rallying around LSU as maybe a national championship contender, but certainly a playoff team out of the SEC. And again, losing to Clemson isn't going to knock you out of anything. I don't think anybody's going to feel differently about LSU, but I think it would mean the most maybe to them in that fan base if they were able to get the win.
Yeah, and I would agree with you too, because of the fact that the narrative around Brian Kelly is he can't win the big one, and it's a situation of he's going to bang the table again of, week 1, we're starting off 0-1 for the 5th, 6th straight year in a row. And it's not going to knock you down that much, because Clemson is looked at as one of the best teams in college football right now. But it's just, how can you really feel confident or comfortable that, hey, this team can win a national title when you have a team across from you that's in that same realm and you still can't find a way to beat them? And I would also say Texas, because I think the Texas narrative will change, or could change, if they were to lose to Ohio State. Because, again, you can say Ohio State is the defending national champions, but they still have a lot of question marks outside of, 2 positions on the football field, and it's Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Smith. But you still have to find a way to make all those other pieces work. And if Texas is looked at as a team that's returning so much talent and Arch Manning is supposed to take them over the top, it would kind of be a little bit of a gut punch, or kind of one of those, not necessarily a knockout blow, but you kind of lose by TKO of, we weren't really expecting this, but we're also not looking at this Ohio State team of, okay, are they truly again going to repeat as national champions? Are they still going to be in the top of the Big Ten? You know, the track record says yes, but we still have that hesitancy of, okay, we got to wait and see. But if you knock off a team like Texas, who's returning so much on both sides of the ball, it's like, okay, well, this Ohio State team may be for real. Maybe you're looking at going for a repeat. So I would say LSU 1 and Texas kind of that, I wouldn't necessarily say 2, but like 1B.
No, I think that's I think that's a good way to look at it. And I think also for Texas, and I mean, I guess you could make the case for all these teams, but I think especially for Texas, right? If you do lose to Ohio State, I think how you lose to Ohio State maybe means more than some of these other teams, right? Because let's say, the defense looks great, which we expect Texas to be one of the best defenses in the country. But let's say Arch Manning doesn't look very good. I think that's when you start to – the concern really starts to set in, right? But if Arch Manning, let's say you go out there, you lose 48-45, Arch Manning throws for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, you're like, man, that was a great football game. That might be a preview of the national championship. You probably don't feel that bad about the loss. You would like to win, obviously, but – you at least have confidence moving forward that Texas is in a good spot. So a lot there to break down in week 1. We'll spend a little more time later in the week diving into some of these matchups, the bigger ones being Texas, Ohio State, LSU, Clemson, and, of course, what you have with both Alabama and Auburn. But a lot of you chiming in now on the courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450. We also see you on hold there, Ron. So hold on. We'll get to your reaction, your thoughts on what's coming up week 1 around the SEC. That's next here on Morning JOX. $6:50 here on your Tuesday morning, Morning JOX. Conrad and Damian here with you, breaking down what you have coming up for you in week 1, getting you set for Auburn versus Baylor, Alabama, Florida State, and then diving a little bit into some of these other big-time SEC games you've got in week 1, which we will continue to do throughout the week here on JOX. But now we hand it over to you, the listener, 205-834-9450. That's how you get on the courtesy GMC text line. But first, let's go to Ron, who's been patiently waiting on the phone lines this morning up in Huntsville. Ron wants to talk a little Alabama. How are we doing this morning, Ron?
All right, man. How y'all doing this morning?
Doing well, doing well. What's on your mind?
I'm going to make a prediction on Alabama-Auburn. Alabama 28-14, Bama.
Okay.
And I hate to make Don season, but Auburn's going to be losing this game 38-14. Y'all have a good day.
All right. Hey, appreciate you, Ron. Thank you for chiming in this morning with some score predictions there. I'm sure Don will be happy with that. So, but with that, let's go to the courtesy GMC text line, where number of texts rolling in now this morning. Let's see. I did not know this. Jimmy chimes in. He says, I'm assuming Damian played some De La Soul bumper music in honor of the De La Soul member's son, who holds the single game rushing record for the SEC championship. Oh, couldn't get that out. But Trey Mason is the son of one of the members of De La Soul.
Yeah, I didn't remember if it was his son or he was the nephew. But yeah, I was familiar with the family ties to De La Soul. I think they talked about it one time. I think it was a couple times during the season, and it was like a fun fact. And yeah, I knew that. But I completely forgot about it, though.
Yeah, I did not know that. That's awesome. Let's see. All right, John Mack is now chiming in. He says, he's just hating this morning. He says, people want to say Ohio State lost so much and has questions, but Texas has an unproven QB, lost most of their defensive line, has new receivers, and they have more holes overall than Ohio State. He says, oh, wait, I should have asked for y'all's permission to talk about Texas, and Lord forbid I tell you Arch Manning is the most overrated quarterback we will have seen in a decade.
Well, he scored on y'all last year. If he's still unproven, find a way to beat him.
Let's see. Bennett from Birmingham chimes in. He says, I know the popular pick is going to be Alabama over Florida State, but what percentage chance would y'all give Florida State to win?
I'd say about 20.
I was going to go 25%.
Yeah.
They certainly have a chance. But yeah, Alabama should not lose that game, but there's always a chance. Bama Hater chimes in. He says, is Alabama automatically out of the playoffs with a double-digit loss to FSU, or will the talking point be it's still early in which conference will win the ACC versus SEC battle week 1? I mean, I know you want to convince yourself that even if Alabama got blown out by Florida State in week 1, they'd be eliminated, but they wouldn't be, because if you go 11-1 or even 10-2 at that point, I mean, you're still going to make
just handle your business the rest of the way.
The playoff. I would love for Bama Hater to tell us what he thinks about the game against Notre Dame. I have not heard him say a single word about Miami's game against Notre Dame, which I'm very excited to watch. I do not think he is going to watch it at all because he'll probably be rewatching Florida State and Alabama highlights. Let's see. This text rolls in. Says, morning, guys. Do y'all think Ohio State is coming off the natty high and will be overrated, or do you think they're a true contender? He also throws in Alabama will beat Florida State 42-7.
Hey.
I like the confidence there. I personally, I will, maybe my mind will change in a couple days. I'm picking Ohio State to beat Texas right now. I think Ohio State's going to be really, really good.
Oh, wow.
I think Julian Sains is going to be really good. I think I like Ohio State. I think they're incredibly talented, just like last year. I'm not going to be surprised at all if they're back playing for a national championship again.
Okay. I'm leaning more Texas in the game. I'm just kind of in that wait-and-see approach on both of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the pieces that Texas has kind of leans me a little bit more because I do think what they have on the defensive side, they can really kind of neutralize. And it's still, I mean, of course, nobody's going to stop Jeremiah Smith. But I'm kind of on the fence about Julian Sayin, only because I haven't seen him as much. Arch, I've seen enough to he can at least be serviceable. I just don't know if Julian Sayin's kind of – to me, it's more of an indictment on Ryan Day of – all right, is it just literally whatever quarterback you have, you're just going to find a way to make it work because it does? And I'm kind of just in a wait-and-see approach.
Okay, yeah. Well, we will I'm very excited for that game. I don't feel like you could really go wrong one way or the other. Let's see. Don says, good morning. Happy Taco Tuesday, everyone. Like what I'm hearing about Jackson Arnold on Tiger Talk last night. Sounds like he has improved a lot over the last week or so. Yeah, seems like he's getting better day by day. Brandon chimes in and says, I don't know if I want Damien to meet this guy either, talking about John Mack, because you were giving him you put him in his place this morning.
I try, man.
Let's see. This person says, find you someone to love as much as Damien hates Texas A&M. Appreciate Damien going scorched earth on John Mack, but he still makes me sad. That was from Deacon. He's still sad that you picked Ole Miss.
Oh, yeah, hotty toddy, baby.
Yeah, and Damien just went John Cena off the top rope on John Mack. So appreciate you chiming in this morning, John Mack. Always good to hear from you in Aggie land. But that'll do it for us. We're back tomorrow at 6 a.m. McElroy and Kublik in the morning is next.